Is wealth a sin? What do you think? Have you heard it being portrayed as a sin? You know, there is that line in the Bible, it is easier for a camel to get through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to get through to heaven. Kind of a harsh thing to hear. So it kind of sounds like Jesus is saying wealth is a bad thing. So let's talk about that. Hi, I'm Pastor Linda, and I am serving in a rural area, and I want to encourage you in your faith life as you deal with this life's struggles. So let's get back to the question, is wealth a sin? Short answer is no, it is not a sin. And here's a reason why I say that. Because in the Bible, God blesses people he likes and who are heroes in the Bible with wealth. Think about Abraham. Think about David. Think about Solomon, who was actually the richest man ever. And then we have this wonderful story about Job, who was very, very rich, and God called him the most righteous man and was very proud of it. Wealth itself is not a sin and can be a blessing. So let's talk about, what does wealth even look like? So I know that according to global standards, I am a very wealthy woman. After all, I live in stable housing. It's pretty good, actually. I'm able to afford all the food I want when I want it, and I drive a car that is only 4 years old and very reliable. So by global standards, my life is a dream and I am wealthy. However, by American standards, it probably wouldn't be considered a dream. I live with debt that is in the 6 digits. At this point in my life, I am not seeing how I will even be able to pay it off. So there's that headache. The housing that I live in, which is wonderful, is only available while I am with my current employer. So it's not necessarily as stable as I think. So if I get laid off or for whatever reason have to leave my job, my housing disappears. And then there is that car that I talked about. Well, according to society, it's not that great of a car. I bought the cheapest economy car I could find, and I used the money I got during COVID to have a down payment. So not that good as far as standards in America go. And finally, I'm a little older in age, and yet I do not even have 1 year's worth of salary in a retirement account, which is pretty alarming. So, am I rich or not? Well, certainly, like society around us that's always going after wealth, or at least looking like someone has wealth, I would like to have more because I've got a lot of worries that keep me up at sometimes, and I'd love to do things like be able to wipe out all of my debt, or to have enough money that I had more flexibility in whether or not I wanted to continue to work full time. I don't have that. So let's look at one of the stories in the Bible that's a big story, and that is the story of Job. Now, Job is a very wealthy man, and we are told that God sees him as a righteous man. So he is not at fault for anything that happens to him, where in fact he loses all of his wealth, his children die, and then he is afflicted with a very painful condition that is all over his body. It affects all of him. So I find hope in this story, and you might wonder where. Well, the first place I find hope in this is that knowledge that this is not, in fact, Job's fault. He did not, in fact, bring this on himself. For me, when I was divorced and going through school and struggling financially, it felt like the world was against me. And it's not that I had done anything wrong per se, so much as it was the economy was crap at that time. So knowing that it's not about me was good. The other place where I found hope is that even though Job lost all this stuff and even lost his health, God set a boundary. He said that Job could be afflicted, but his life had to be spared, which made me feel hopeful that there is a boundary and there will be a limit to what I go through. Now, in the story, Job gets very angry at God. He doesn't curse him, but he does challenge him, and he is confused. He gets very depressed and even wonders about the value of being alive. And when I was going through extreme financial stress, I kind of had some of those same feelings. If you are in that place, you may have those same feelings too. But through it all, Job was loyal, and God rewards him. God is pleased with him, and in the end, he restores his wealth and even doubles it. This doesn't happen overnight. Wealth doesn't come quickly like that. If wealth came to him or us too quickly, we would find it to be a curse. Think about all the people who have won the lottery and later come out saying it was the worst thing that ever happened to them. So money is neutral and a tool, but with it comes great responsibility. So if you're not ready to handle that, wealth can in fact be a curse. This took a lot of time for Job to get all of his wealth. And that gave me hope, because while I was in a period of struggle, I knew that it wasn't going to be forever. Sure, it was going to take time to come through this, but I had hope and knowledge that I would come through it. And the wealth that I find, even in the midst of having a lack, is the fact that I have had great learnings opportunities, and I have had opportunity for great relationships. So there's more to wealth than just money. So you might say, well, what about that line in the Bible about a rich man not being able to get to heaven? Well, what the truth is of that is, if you continue to read the Bible after you get to that line, you will find that the reason a rich man struggles to get to heaven is because no one gets to heaven without Jesus. And unfortunately, a lot of times, a rich person will rely on himself instead of relying on God. There's another interesting note in that same area of the Bible where Peter then proclaims, "Oh God, me and the disciples, we left everything to follow you." And I think he was showing a little bit of pride, thinking, obviously, we're getting into heaven. But Jesus kind of looks at him and says, no family, no wealth, no land, no houses are truly given up, because in this life, you will in fact get all of that and more, as well as have a rich inheritance in heaven. Now, like I said, wealth can come in many forms, including money. And I have hope and trust as I lean into God more that things will be okay. I've had great experiences. I find I have enough, maybe a little extra, as I do have a few bucks in the bank. And I have been able to live in houses that I could never afford. So, is wealth a problem? Not necessarily. As long as it is in perspective, you can handle it, and you don't forget everything comes from God and has a responsibility with it. So I hope this has given you some encouragement, and I ask that God bless you. Amen.